companies still want you to have a point of view. They want you to have passions. They want diversity of thought. And if you don't have the depth in a particular area, let's say, it's not just depth in terms of experience, it's also depth in terms of, passion and interest. If you're really interested in a particular sector or a particular technology, for example, then that can set you apart. It makes you much more memorable when it comes to the interview.
This is Big Four and More. I'm your host, Drew Leifheit, bringing you insightful interviews connected to the global consultancy sector. If you'd like to work at a Big Four firm or other global consultancy, how could you get yourself ready and optimize your chances of getting hired? To help you out, we'll be speaking with someone whose mission it is to inspire the next generation of international consultants. James Brown is the founder of Savitas, which provides courses, webinars, workshops, case competitions, and career coaching to those wanting to work in consulting. With over 25 years of experience, including 15 years in consulting and a decade in operations and engineering, James has a wealth of knowledge gained from working in international markets like the UK, France, Singapore, and Malaysia. As an MBA, a certified coach, and a member of the International Coaching Federation, James has supported more than 33 top-ranked business schools with workshops, courses, and coaching to help students build a career strategy that's both realistic and successful. Be sure to stick around for James's top 3 tips for preparing for case interviews to increase your chances of landing at a global firm. James Brown, welcome to Big 4 More.
Thanks, Drew. Great to be here.
Thanks for coming. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself in a nutshell?
Yes, well, you've just introduced me really well. I actually started my career as a chemical engineer, believe it or not. I worked for 10 years in the oil, gas, chemicals industries. And then at the end of that 10 years, towards the end, I was working at a facility in North Wales in the United Kingdom. And a group of internal consultants, I worked for BHP back then. So a group of internal consultants came around to our site and worked with us and helped improve what we deliver. And I really like that idea. I like the idea of traveling. I like the idea of helping others. So I decided to become a consultant, working more in the technical space, supporting companies like BP and Eon and various others in the sector. And then I moved to Singapore in 2011. Took my family over there, grew a team of consultants. And 2 of my former bosses were former McKinsey partners, and I loved that entrepreneurial spirit. I loved that energy and the drive and the creativity. I decided I wanted to move into management consulting. So I went and took my MBA, and I joined Accenture. Ended up as a director of strategy and consulting, and then I went freelance a few years ago. Had no intention of supporting students, supporting people getting into consulting. But just kind of fell into it really, and it's grown from there, and that's what I do. So I still do a mixture of management consulting and also coaching and presenting and doing workshops and those types of things.
Fabulous. And let's cut to the chase, James. How difficult is it for a young person to get a job in global consulting today?
Yeah, it's tough. During COVID, there was a big spike in recruitment. And let's face it, a lot of the companies overhired. A lot of and hence the recruitment market has been quite subdued ever since. And then we've had a lot of the economic stagnation and uncertainty. Now, uncertainty is actually helpful for management and strategy consulting because a lot of companies then want help, they want advice. So, for example, tariffs come in. Companies are looking at things like, well, should I start producing in the USA or should I start doing something elsewhere? How do I change my logistics and my procurement and my supply chain accordingly? So it can drive a lot of work. But then, yeah, they overhired, and so gradually that's been working its way through. And now, of course, we have the advent of artificial intelligence. So we have companies like McKinsey and BCG and Deloitte developing their own tools or partnering with companies like OpenAI to do a lot of the work that a more junior consultant would do, and that's changing the recruitment that's going on.
Mm-hmm. And as I understand, so there are fewer entry-level roles at these companies than there used to be. What does that mean for somebody trying to get into one?
So it's not all bad news. I mean, there are certain sectors, there's certain areas that are definitely more subdued. So the likes of public sector, I think we've all heard about countries like the USA, UK, France have all cutting back on public spend with consultants. There are certain growth areas, areas that have been growing sort of 10 to 14% over the past, however many years, even when the economy has been quite stagnant. So things like sustainability, areas like cost and productivity improvements, areas like digital and AI, for example. So it can actually drive a lot of work for consultants. Going forwards, I think more probably in aerospace and defense. A lot of countries are looking to increase their spend in those areas. And also, like I said before, supply chain is going to be quite a big area. Digital and cybersecurity and artificial intelligence will be the areas where there's a lot of recruitment going on.
Mhm. In your experience, what are the young people like? I'm speaking as a someone deeply steeped in middle age, and what are these kids like? Millennials, Gen Z. How prepared are they to do something like this?
Yep, yep. Yeah, me too. Yeah, I think a lot of the younger generation coming through university or going and doing their MBA, for example, people that are in their early 20s tend to. I mean, they're very digital savvy. I mean, they've grown up with a lot of these tools that we never grew up with. So they know their way around these types of tools, and they're becoming the norm. I think what often can happen though is certainly I think millennials tend to need a bit more resilience and a bit more focus on the softer side of what they do. I think a lot of people make the mistake, and it's driven heavily by education systems. Not against education, of course. But what it tends to teach you is that knowledge is king. And early in your career, it's the technical and functional skills that enable you to perform well. So your performance is judged based on your ability to do things. When you move into leadership roles, or when you move into consultancy, it's very much more about the way you think. Because the problems that you're working on are very strategic, very big, multi-million, multi-billion dollar, euro, pound problems. And there's no right or wrong answer. So a lot of people struggle with that ability to sit in the gray area, the ability to use the 80/20 rule, the ability to find that not the solution, but a solution that's going to have the best impact for your client in their industry, in their context. Um, and that's something I help a lot of candidates with, to kind of work through those problems and work through cases in a way that's going to really deliver an impact and deliver value for a client.
Mhm. Yeah, could you give us some highlights of, the kinds of exercises and what training that you provide to address some of those issues?
Yeah, so I mean, also I do workshops, a general introduction to what consulting is all about. I find a lot of candidates, they like the idea of consulting, but they don't really know the nuts and bolts and how the day-to-day work is, and whether or not it's right for them or they're right for it. So there's a lot of work around that, a lot of work in terms of pivoting into consulting as an experienced hire, and then a lot of work on case interviews. So case interview coaching with some of the big business schools. So actually running mock case interviews. I also do I've got 3 online courses. So one is more an introduction to consulting Kickstarter. Another one is the case interview course that I run called Cracking Case Interviews. And there's one that's about to launch. It's going to launch on the 24th of September, called the Case Interview Bootcamp. And that really is about 3 hours worth of practice. So maths drills, charts drills, case structuring exercises, market estimation exercises, and then actual examples, a BCG case bot interview, and an actual Bain Star case interview. Actually, I'm offering a big discount for people who join the waitlist leading up to that, but this podcast won't be out until around that time. So what I'm going to do is, when you launch the podcast, I'm going to share a link to give a discount exclusively to the Big Four and More LinkedIn group, so you can offer that to your network.
Fabulous, fabulous. We appreciate that.
No worries.
And James, yeah, when you're thinking about helping someone prepare for such a venture, oh, could you talk a little bit about sort of, we've talked about some of the changes at international consultancies. What do you think has remained the same, or will be kind of a basis for what it's like working at such companies?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, obviously artificial intelligence is changing the way that junior consultants work. It's taking a lot of that legwork away from them. So they need to be ready for that. They need to be conversant in that. Um, but also, what artificial intelligence won't be able to do is that human element. You still need to build trust with clients. You still need to communicate with clients. You still need to tell the artificial intelligence what to do. Be good at prompt engineering. So there's all those softer elements that remain a constant. Therefore, catering to use and really being clear on why. So why that company? Why is consulting right for you? Why are you right for this company and for consulting? You've got to be really crystal clear and being able to articulate that. I think those are the things that will remain constant.
Mhm. It seems like a bit of an elusive target. How difficult is it for you to kind of keep up with what's going on in the sector?
Yeah, so I mean, I have a monthly newsletter that I send out. It's got 1,500 subscribers. People are keen to look. So I'm constantly looking at what's going on in the markets and how things are changing. So yeah, it is particularly difficult. And you get some misreporting going on, and you've got to try and sort of look at it from different angles. But yeah, I managed to do it, and yeah, I do enough to be able to help people understand where to focus their efforts and how to be more strategic about the way they approach their career.
How important would you say being fluent in data and analytics tools is today?
I think it's a must-have now. Um, it is so tough getting into the kind of strategy consultants, especially. You're talking 1% or less chance of getting in. I mean, I help a lot of the top business school candidates, and they have to do a lot of work. A lot of people don't put in enough work to do it. I typically say you need a good few months to prepare and to get yourself ready. Um, when it comes to data analytics, I think it's just a must-have, and it's not just about being able to do prompt engineering. It's not just about understanding the tools themselves and being able to use the tools. It's also about understanding the use cases. So how are those tools applied for your client? What's the next thing? So stay ahead, have a point of view, look at the more recent cases, sign up to the newsletters from the likes of McKinsey, Bain and BCG or the Big Four. They often come out with new things. So keep on top of what's going on, and that will also put you in a good place for when it comes to the interviews.
Mm. Oh, that's a great tip. And also, it sounds as if you have a kind of T-shaped with you. You had a kind of a specialization, but you also have sort of the broad ability to be able to work in teams with others. Could you talk about the importance of that?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that's particularly difficult, obviously, for people early in their career. But I do suggest that to people. A lot of people want to go into sort of general strategy consulting, but frankly, I mean, the competition is crazy. Um, and companies still want you to have a point of view. They want you to have passions. They want diversity of thought. And if you don't have the depth in a particular area, let's say, there's not just depth in terms of experience, it's also depth in terms of, passion and interest. If you're really interested in a particular sector or a particular technology, for example, then that can set you apart. It makes you much more memorable when it comes to the interview. And so I do think it's very important. And I think it helps you to focus your efforts as well. And I always explain this to people. It's way too easy nowadays to just apply to everything. You've got LinkedIn Easy Apply, you've got all these things, it's just a click of the button. People using the same CV and they're scattergunning it all over the place. But it's obvious when you're a recruiter and you look at these CVs, you realize this person doesn't really understand what consulting's about and whether or not they're a good fit for the company, and therefore that CV will go straight into the bin. And you can see it in the interview stage as well. So my point always is, if you want to be a consultant, think like a consultant, and demonstrate you can think like a consultant. So get your cover letter, get your interview prep very focused on a smaller set of companies that are aligned with your beliefs, your values, your passions, and your strengths, and you'll have a much better chance of getting a job and staying in that job.
Wonderful, wonderful. And earlier you'd mentioned case interviews, and I was wondering if we could maybe delve into some of the details about them. For example, what why do you think they're important?
Okay, so fit interviews, typical behavioral interview where it's, tell me about yourself and then tell me about a time when you've demonstrated excellent leadership skills or excellent communication skills. Um, the theory there is that if you can demonstrate success in the past in those areas, then you're likely to demonstrate success in the future. Okay. The problem with those is that you can kind of fake it a little bit. You can lie. It's easy to fake, and it doesn't put you in a real life situation. The idea of the case interview is that they're testing different things. They're testing the way you think. They're putting you in a real life situation as if you're talking to an actual client. They're testing your communication skills, your ability to think strategically, in a structured way, in a hypothesis-driven way. Yeah, and that's why it's tough. There's no right or wrong answer, and it's very difficult to predict, and you need to practice. And there are there's things you can do to accelerate that, and this is what I teach in my courses. But you need to practice, and you need to practice out loud. A lot of people don't really practice out loud, and what I also find is that when you go through that practice, it also helps you to realize, do you think like a consultant? And is this really exciting for you? Do you like this style of working? And I do find that there are some that start going down that path and realize, actually, this isn't this doesn't kind of tick the boxes for me. It doesn't get me excited. And so they kind of move on to slightly different things. Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. What are some of the most typical subject matters that are asked of candidates?
Okay, so in the case interview, there are different types of case interview. McKinsey approach it in a slightly different way to others. They have more of an interviewer-led way of looking at it. The others are much more conversational. So Bain, BCG, the others will be much more conversational, and they're typically a business problem of some kind. And what a lot of candidates do is they'll go and they'll learn frameworks that fit within that. And you're supposed to think in a very MECE way. Now, MECE is MECE. It stands for mutually exclusive, completely exhaustive. So when you break down a problem, you're breaking it down into its key drivers. And those key drivers should be mutually exclusive of each other, but completely exhaustive of the problem. And it takes a bit of practice. It's something that's difficult to explain. Much better if you just have a go. Yeah, and that's how you approach it. And what it does is it demonstrates your ability to think strategically at a very high level, rather than jumping to solutions and getting stuck into the weeds, which is what a lot of candidates do.
Right. Are there any right answers to such case interviews?
No, it's all about the way you think, not what you know. In these types of case interviews, and you can't predict it. So these interviews they're not run by HR or recruitment experts. They're run by the consultants themselves. And these consultants may bring a case which they were literally working on with a client weeks before. So it's very difficult to predict. So if your friend has an interview in the same office, the same company the day before, you may end up with a completely different thing that you're asked. So hence you need to practice. And some of these things there's no standard framework that you can follow. So you can't really just apply a one size fits all algorithm that's gonna solve the case for you.
Mhm. As advertised, James, I want to put you in the hot seat. Are you able to provide us 3 tips for preparing and possibly acing case interviews?
Yeah. Oh well. Okay. So I think I've already mentioned practice, practice, practice. I do typically suggest you need a good few months to prepare. Um, what I do with my courses, I try and shrink that down to about 6 weeks. You don't want to practice too much, daily, for example, because you can become a bit mechanical. It needs to be quite conversational, quite real. So you can become quite mechanical. So you can't do it too much, but you need to do a lot still. So hence, I normally say 3 months. So practice, practice, practice. Um, when it comes to often you're asked to give a recommendation. So a lot of candidates struggle with that. They tend to sort of talk about a lot of detail about the thought process, but they don't really get to the point. So you need to flip it on its head. So you need to use what they call pyramid thinking. And with pyramid thinking, what you do is you kind of just recap what the problem is. You come out straight with one recommendation. You give 2 or 3 reasons why, preferably backed up, quantified. And then you talk about next steps. So a lot of people forget the next steps. Remember, as a consultant, you're there to help your client. So talking about next steps all the time. What more information would you need? What would you advise? to the client to do. So that's two things. And the third one, oh, I want to pick something that's got a lot of impact. Um, what mistake do I see people making? So I think I guess the MECE way of thinking and the practicing that, what a lot of people do is they jump to solutions too quickly. So for example, you have a restaurant food chain and the profit is reducing. What would you do? How would you help? So a candidate might come out and say, oh, I'd want to look at the menus, or I want to look at the restaurants, or I want to look at car parking, or I want to look at marketing, I want to look at, and there's so many different things that could be causing that drop in revenue and could help improve it. So a lot of candidates kind of sit in the weeds. But if you're thinking strategically, you think, well, hold on a sec, if profit needs to increase, it basically means either revenue needs to increase, costs need to reduce, or both. And that's much more strategic. And it's a MECE way of breaking up that problem. And then you break down further to make sure you're going to offer a recommendation that delivers the most impact. Difficult to explain. I suggest people just have a go.
Excellent. Excellent. Pulling out a little bit, James, could you talk about, kind of the importance of people skills? And, we hear that sometimes that younger generations struggle with tasks that have to do with interaction with people. And I'm just curious what your take is.
Yeah, I think COVID didn't help with that, and obviously technology also doesn't help with that. But if you look at what these companies look for, doesn't matter if it's MBB, Big Four, or any of the other niche consultancies or big consultancies, is always they're always softer skills. Okay. So let's take McKinsey, for example. They will look for, communication, entrepreneurship, the ability to deal with complexity and ambiguous problems. You need to be able to demonstrate that you've achieved and you're good in those particular areas. So what I suggest to people, a big mistake a lot of candidates make, they always come to me and they ask, what certifications do I need to be a consultant? Particularly strategy or management consultant. And I say to them, look, it's not about what you know, it's about the way you think. All a certification does is show that you've got a keenness to learn and that maybe you have learned something, but it doesn't show what you've achieved with that learning. It doesn't demonstrate that you've actually implemented it. So you need to put yourself in situations where you can demonstrate it and you can demonstrate achievement. It's difficult for students, for example, because they're not actually working at that point. But you can go and volunteer. You can get yourself involved in consulting at societies and groups. You can go do work. Put yourself in a position where you're going to demonstrate that, and that will help you to improve on those skills. And also, it just makes you much more sellable. It gives you much more to talk about, makes you more interesting when it comes to the interview.
Mhm. James, could you talk a little bit about why you do what you do?
Oh, yes. So yeah, how does a guy go from chemical engineer, chartered chemical engineer, to doing management consulting and talking in business schools? Um, so I'm from a family of teachers. I'm the only one that didn't go into teaching. So my mum, my dad, my sister, all teachers. I was the only one that didn't go in, and but I've still got that teacher gene. Um, and I just kind of fell into this. I still do the management consulting. I still help companies with improving their operational performance. But yeah, I just like helping people, and that's something that I say a lot to students. It's important they reflect on who they are, what are their values, what are their interests, because that's going to help them in the interview. And often what I say to them is, have a think about what your parents do. The problem is no young person wants to be told that they're like their parents, right? But you know, um, there's a link there, whether it be nature or nurture. We often have similar likes and interests as we get older with our parents and with our family. So yeah, just kind of keep going with that and exploring it. A lot of people skip that step, which I think is wrong. Um, yeah, like I say, when it comes to expressing why you're good for consulting and why you're a good fit for the company, then being able to talk about who you are and what you're passionate about, I think is really important.
Hmm. Well, today I think you've shown us actually how your career and your background really kind of set you up to be an excellent mentor. I get the feeling that you really like what you do and that you want to help people. So congratulations with that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Onward and upward.
Right. Right. Finally, if yeah, just in that kind of mentor role, if someone is thinking of getting into international consulting, maybe they think, oh well, it seems cool, or my friend's dad is an international consultant. What question do you think they should ask themselves?
Good question. I think it's not just a question for themselves, it's also a question for others. They should go and if you know somebody, go and talk with them and ask them what it's all about. Um, you know, it isn't for everybody, but some people sometimes I work with people and they've got no desire to get into consulting. And then we go through one of my workshops, we go through the case interviews and I think, wow, this is cool. I really like this. This is me. So it's all about exploring, life's a journey. You've seen my journey. It's been quite a, up and down all over the place. Yeah, just explore it for that particular person. Go and speak with that, friend who is a consultant. Yeah, and just go and have a go at it. I think a lot of people underestimate networking. It's really important, particularly in strategy and management consulting. In fact, some companies will ask who you've spoken with in the business. They want to know that you're a good fit. So it isn't a prerequisite to have a referral, for example, but it's really important, and it's great to be able to say that. Yes, I know I'm a good fit for this company. I've spoken with this person. I've heard about the work they do and the journey they've been on. It really inspired me, and I know that this is going to be a great fit for me. It's a very powerful message to give in an interview.
Mm. How should people get in touch with you if they're interested in seeking out your help?
So, I don't give one-to-ones anymore other than through the business schools. So, there's a reason for that. It's just I'm busy and I get asked a lot, several times a week. So it pains me to do it, but I have to kind of say sorry. So I give my list of events. You can look at my website at savitas.co.uk. I've got a long list of events. If you are at a business school, you can go and look to see where I'm speaking next. You can subscribe to my newsletter on the same website. There's also a nice little quiz there that's completely free, so you can go and have a look at. It's a multiple choice set of questions. It helps you to understand whether your work style is aligned with that of a strategy consultant. And then there's my 3 online courses you can go and take as well. So unfortunately, I don't give one-to-ones or mentoring because I would just literally just be doing that all the time, I think, because there's so many people out there that want to get into consulting. So apologies, but
Right. Right.
yeah.
Wonderful. Well, keep up the good work, James. We've been speaking to James Brown. He's the founder of Savitas, whose mission is working to inspire the next generation of global consultants. James, thank you so much, and yeah, take care.
Thank you.